Hello everyone, welcome to the Colorism Healing YouTube channel. I am Sarah Webb. In this video, I want to share with you some writing prompts that you can use to explore the issue of colorism. So this is inspired by the fact that I myself am a writer, but also by the fact that I host an international writing contest on the subject of colorism. So whether you're interested in submitting something to the contest or merely interested in exploring the issue more deeply for yourself or with others, then these prompts will be very useful for you. But if you are interested in submitting to the contest, I've linked to that page in the description box below. Now, being a writer myself, hosting the writing contest, as well as being a writing professor, I'm very aware of the fact that we can struggle to come up with ideas for our writing. So that's why I thought I'd help people out, especially those who want to understand colorism more deeply and their experiences with colorism, by providing some writing prompts. Now, I've done something like this similar in a previous blog post that I published in 2018. So I will also link to that in the description box below because there are 10 additional writing prompts available on the blog post. There are 20 writing prompts and I've broken them down into 5 general categories. The first category is to start with specific opening lines. So the first opening line that you can start with is, "If my skin color could speak for itself, ... What would your skin color say? Think about all the attitudes or perceptions that we put onto skin color, but what if that a person's complexion or your own complexion could speak for itself without the stereotypes, without the stigmas that society often attaches to your skin tone or to certain complexions?" The second opening line is, "I remember." Now, this is a good one because many people have past experiences from childhood or even recently as yesterday that they are still unpacking or still trying to deal with the emotions and after effects of. So beginning with the line, "I remember," is a good way to start going through the archive of memory and experiences that you've had with colorism, either positive or negative. A third opening line is, "I've never said this to anyone before, but..." Now, if you're like me, then you probably have not always spoken up about colorism. You probably haven't always been vocal about colorism. I know there are a lot of people who observe it or feel it, but they don't feel like they really have a place to speak about it. And so for some, this writing contest is their first time, their first opportunity to be able not only to share their experiences, but to express how they feel about those experiences. The second category of prompts are epistolary prompts. The epistolary form of writing is simply letter writing. So the first letter that you could write is, "Dear Past Self." I wrote a poem actually called "Dear Smallest Sarah." So speaking to that little girl within and thinking about what I want her to know now, and then empathizing with her and saying, hey, you kind of turned out okay. Whatever message you would give to your past self, this is an opportunity, this prompt, "Dear Past Self," to speak directly to that inner child. A great follow-up prompt to that is "Dear Future Self." So thinking about where we are now and where we'd like to be in 10 or 20 years is a good exercise as well. It gives us a direction and a vision towards which we can strive. So a third letter or epistolary prompt is "Dear Self." This is your classic note to self or message to self. Right now, in this moment, in this day and time, what do you need to hear? What voice do you need to hear most? And this is a great opportunity to write that down and then be able to reread it so that you actually hear that voice playing in your head. The next epistolary prompt is "Dear blank." So this can be writing a letter to anyone in your life who has been significant in terms of your experiences with colorism. That could be a significantly negative experience or a significantly painful experience, but you could also write letters to people who have been significant in helping you to heal from colorism. You could write letters to people who have been significant in helping you to learn and understand colorism, right? So writing letters to anyone in your past or your present that has made a difference in how you view the world, how you view other people's complexions or hair, and also how you view yourself. And the last epistolary prompt is "Dear Colorism." Yes, that's right. You can write a letter to the issue itself. So if you were to imagine that colorism were embodied as a person or a thing or an animal that you could speak to directly, what would you say to the issue of colorism? Now, my third category of prompts are a series of questions, but these questions should be asked towards yourself. So the first in this category is, have I been a part of the problem or a part of the solution? It's a hard question to ask sometimes because we realize that in some cases we have actually been complicit. But the important thing is merely self-awareness. We can always do more when it comes to colorism or any other issue of our life. And so it's always great to ask ourselves the question, especially when we start complaining or we hear something, is to self-reflect, practice some introspection, and determine to what extent have we been part of the problem and to what extent have we been part of the solution. Another question you can ask yourself is also one that people struggle with. It's simply reflecting on, how did I develop my attitudes towards complexion or hair or eye color or other facial features, right? And it's not that you were intentionally trying to cultivate that attitude, but it's a matter of recognizing what environmental factors play into your attitudes about complexion and facial features and hair texture. So maybe in your question, you explore the role that your parents or your family dynamic played in forming and shaping your perceptions of people with a certain skin tone. It could also be other factors outside of the home. It could also be media. That's up to you. Only you will know that answer. Okay, so the final question that you could ask in terms of a writing prompt is probably even more difficult than the previous two. That question is, where is my privilege? Yes, the big P word. Some of us get afraid of it, but we all have some form of it. Whether it be because of our gender or our social class or our skin tone or our body type or the fact of our citizenship in this country or what language we speak, right? And we know that privilege can shift depending on the context. So what gives me privilege in one setting might not be as much of a privilege in a different setting. But the important thing is that we start to unpack that and acknowledge the moments when we do have privilege and then learn to leverage that privilege. My fourth category of prompts is a really fun one, and there are 6 prompts within this one. And that category is responding to other works on colorism. So my first prompt in this category is, respond to another piece of writing from one of the previous Colorism Healing writing contests. So you can either buy one of the books, I have a few behind me here, or you can find ones that are available on the Colorism Healing website. I'll also provide that link in the description box. So what you'll do is read one of the previous submissions and then think about how maybe your experience or your perspective has been similar or different, or maybe it's the style of the writing that inspires you. However you see fit to respond, it's up to you, but allow the writing from previous contests to inspire your own original piece of work. Next in this category is a personal favorite of mine, and that is to respond to the song For Women by Nina Simone. Now, I love Nina Simone for many reasons, which I've stated in previous videos, but in particular, that song For Women is about 4 African American women who are all different skin tones and different skin tones for different reasons. And so the song explores their experience in America based on their ethnic background, their family history, and their physical appearance. Next is also another song. This one is called Cloud 9 by the artist Donnie. Donnie also explores issues of colorism, not just skin tone, but also hair texture and other features that we identify with a Black aesthetic. Now, you can respond to the lyrics of the song, or you can simply listen to the song and write based on the mood that the song sets for you. So what kind of mood or vibe are you getting from the song, right? And that can kind of inspire the writing process itself as your mind starts to wander and think about, well, what is Cloud 9 for me? What does that mean for me? Or maybe I want to write a piece that also makes the reader feel the same kind of vibes that I'm getting from Donnie's song Cloud 9. So the fourth prompt in this category, which is prompt number 15 overall, is to respond to historic media. Now, in particular, I'm thinking about historic magazine images of women of color or people of color, or historic ads, even the negative things like skin bleaching ads that suggest that your life will be better if your skin were just a few shades lighter. Think about that historic context in the media, including a lot of Black media outlets that projected a certain idea of what Black people, especially Black women, should look like. What does that make you think of? It could be a critical response or a creative response. It could be poetry, it could be an essay, it could be a story that imagines what a person's life would be like if they were on that magazine cover. And then the next prompt is a follow-up to the previous one, which is to respond to contemporary media. So we see a lot on social media, and I get a lot of messages of news stories that reflect on contemporary issues and contemporary culture, things that are happening now, current news, current events. I just saw the movie The Photograph, and I think I might actually write about that because I love seeing that representation of a dark-skinned Black woman having her love story. I've waited pretty much 34 years to see a movie like that in theaters. So that's an example of how you might write in response to contemporary media. Maybe you too are seeing representation of yourself for the first time. What does that feel like? Or maybe you still have yet to see adequate or accurate or fair or dynamic or interesting representation of people who look like you in mass media. You can also write about how that feels or what you think maybe are solutions to it. It's up to you, but it could also be fun just to consume contemporary media in and of itself. So prompt number 17, which is the last in this category of responding to other works, is responding to the painting Free Women of Color by Agostino Brunius. Now, this is a historic painting and it depicts a historical scene. I will put more about the artist and the date and etc. in the description box. But think about the story of these women, right? You can respond to the prompt however you feel like, but a suggestion might be to write what you think their lives were like, or even do research on what lives of free women of color was like. And imagine, so this could be a great short story, right, or fiction piece. Imagine what's happening in that scene. What would you think the dialogue is, right? Or you can simply respond about the artwork itself, the painting, how the artist chose to depict certain people based on their skin tones or their social class or their social status, right? So you could also do an analytical piece of writing that looks at the representation that the artist provides of these free women of color and the other people in the image. We're down to our final 3 prompts, and they don't fit quite nicely into one general category, so I'll just call them our last 3 prompts, and that'll get us to 20. So number 18 is problem solution. Yes, if you're familiar with the classic high school, college composition essay, then you know what I'm talking about. But practically speaking, colorism is the problem, and in your writing, you will propose possible solutions. You could even make the argument as to why there really is no solution to colorism. It's up to you, but this is how we progress in society, by identifying problems and proposing and prototyping and iterating possible solutions. So you could be the next innovator when it comes to addressing issues like colorism. Number 19 I like in particular because it asks you to consider all of your features. So we know that colorism pertains to complexion as one of the most salient, one of the most obvious modes of engaging or operating or moving through the world. But other features like hair texture, the color of your eyes, the size and shape of your nose, your lips, all of those things make a difference, even your body type or your style of dress. You can look at colorism intersectionally and think about how your skin tone and your complexion shapes your experiences of other aspects of your identity, right? Or how the fact that you have broader nose and thicker lips impacts the fact that you also have lighter skin and maybe straighter hair. So it's very nuanced. Colorism is a very nuanced issue. And so one way to dig deeper and get below surface level discussions is to think about the intersections at play and the web, the network of influences that shape our day-to-day experiences. And finally, number 20. I love this one. This has to be my favorite, right? Last but certainly not least, headlining the list of 20 prompts is to write an ode to your growth. Let me tell you why I love this one. First, odes are poems that express love and affection and admiration. So I love this one because it's a love poem. Haha, get it? But also, it's an ode to our growth. And I think that's so important because we can get negative, get down on ourselves. Why am I still struggling with this? Why am I not over this by now? Why do certain things still trigger me? But it's important not to beat ourselves up about the fact that we're still on our journey, that we're still making progress. And so focus on how far you have come. Focus on the amount of healing you have been able to do. Focus on the amount of wounds that are no longer as tender as they used to be, right? So write an ode to your growth, celebrate yourself, celebrate the work you've been doing on yourself, and then share that with the world. So that concludes my list of 20 writing prompts on colorism. Now remember that there's a blog post with 10 additional writing prompts on it, linked in the description box below. And also remember that if you end up trying one of these writing prompts and coming up with something that you kind of like, then why not submit it to the Colorism Healing Writing Contest? If you're watching this around the time that it's actually published, that means the contest is currently open and we are accepting submissions through March 15th, 2020. You'll find that link in the description box as well. Either way, I'd love to hear how your writing exercises went in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.